It's 2024, and there's no worries if you don't have all of your New Year's resolutions nice and set, and if you haven't started planning for the new year just yet. In fact, I tend to take my family vacations in the beginning or middle of January, so I don't really get started with my New Year's resolutions until deep into January or even into February. The good news is that science tells us that the fresh start effect can be leveraged at any time of the year, and you don't have to start exactly on January 1st to reap the benefits of a new year and a fresh start. Today, I'm going to walk you through how I plan for my entire year in less than an hour. In years past, I have done this in a notebook, but this year I'm going to be using a digital system on my Notion. So I'm starting in a new page here, and I'm going to write 2024, and I'm going to start with an empty page. The first thing I'm going to do is review my last year, and I'm going to do this by looking first at my photos from 2023 and then going through my calendar and my bullet journal and just flipping through and getting a good handle on how I spent my time, the major events, major highs, and major lows of the last year. Now, I tend to do a monthly review where I gather up some photos that are emblematic of how I spent my time that month, and I also do a monthly reflection. So rather than looking at all of my photos, I have a place where I can look for a quick snapshot of what I did month to month. But if you don't do a monthly review, that's totally okay. Just scroll through your photo album starting in January and then work your way through the year so that you get a good sense of the things that you did over the last 365 days. Going through your calendar or flipping through your bullet journal or planner is another way for you to remind yourself of how you spent your time in 2023. Try not to get bogged down in analyzing what went well or what didn't go well in 2023. The goal here is just to look through and remind yourself of the highs and the lows going through the year. That's going to assist us in our next step, which is identifying your major life domains or the big roles that you play. I do this by thinking about my typical week. On a typical weekday, I'll get up and go into my home gym, which is an area of my life called health and fitness. After that, I send my son off to school in my role as a mother. Most of the days, I commute over to an office for my 9-to-5 job, where I work primarily as a research scientist, and I'm also a clinical psychologist who sees patients or clients one day a week. Once I come home, I spend my time with my son and cooking dinner and doing household chores. In the evenings, I shuttle him back and forth to his athletic events, and I also spend some time working on this YouTube channel. On Saturday evenings, I go out with my husband for a date night in my role as a spouse. And during the weekends, I spend most of my time working on this YouTube channel, as well as engaging in some family activities. Going through your week like this helps you identify your major life domains or the big roles that you hold in your life. And there is some scientific literature on how to do a complete life assessment, and it's part of the things that you might do with a life coach. The areas that I identified as major domains in my life are pretty consistent with the domains identified in some generic life assessments, but they're a little bit more personalized. So my list looks like this. I have YouTube, my 9-to-5 job, my physical health or fitness, my finances, my physical environment, which has to do with my home and my physical spaces, my personal growth, because that has to do with things that I am learning. I do spend a little bit of time every day learning Japanese in preparation for a big trip to Japan that I have planned for 2025. And I do want to spend a little bit more time researching things about growing my YouTube channel, my presence, and videography. Then I have my relationships that covers things with my husband and my son and my friends. And this is a good opportunity for you to think about what is it that you're missing. So I know that I have time in my schedule for this YouTube channel, for fitness, for personal growth and development, but I don't have a lot of downtime. So this is a place where I would like to see some growth in the next year. And I'm going to add that as my 8th life domain, which is more like mental health and wellness. Now I'm going to look at these domains and expand upon them so that I really understand what is required of me in each of these life areas. I've used Canva, which is a free online platform that lets you design some cool visuals, and I have mapped out all of the different domains of my life. So here you'll see that for my YouTube channel, that involves writing, filming, editing, and posting. Physical health and fitness involves my nutrition, my sleep, exercise, and attending to my medical needs. Mental health and wellness for me is about maintaining a routine and feeling comfortable within that routine. There's also self-care, some downtime, and some organized fun time. All of these are things that I identified as missing in my last year. For finances, I want to have a yearly, monthly, and bi-monthly review and analysis of my finances, my physical environment. For me, that just involves keeping a clean home and doing the laundry. My husband takes care of some of those other things. He does like dishes. I also do restocking of groceries, so that also is like kind of part of physical environment. There's personal growth, so these are the things that I want to focus on in terms of learning for the next year. My 9 to 5 job, it's really about sustaining the things that I do right now as a scientist and as a therapist. And then my relationships, I have wife, mother, friend, but also dog owner, because I do want to make sure that I'm cultivating that relationship with my pets and being a good like dog mom. So these are all of my life domains, but your life domains might look a little different. One of the things that is missing in my life domains that other people might have are things like spirituality, connection with community, some of those things that might be important in your life. And just because some of those things might be important to someone else doesn't necessarily mean it is one of your major life areas. And at the same token, you don't want to necessarily just copy and paste my life domains. You really want to think about what things are important to you and what kind of buckets do your actions or behaviors contribute to in your life. Now that I've identified what are my major life domains and some of the specifics that fall under each of those domains, I'm going to do my assessment of how I feel I was doing in each of those domains over the last year. A common way to do that is to use this life assessment wheel. This circle consists of 10 concentric circles where you can rate from a level of 1 being the worst, and 10 being your idealized state within that life domain, where you fall in each area of your life. In order to complete this assessment, you have to think about your dream or your idealized state in each of these life domains. So what physical health and fitness means to me might be very different from what physical health and fitness means to you. So you have to think through what is your 10 out of 10 in this area, because we're going to be filling in this circle based on how well you think you're doing in that life domain. 1 or 0 being you're doing terrible, and 10 being you're close to your idealized state or you're close to the dream state that you want for your performance within that life domain. So for example, with physical health and fitness, I am interested in being in a caloric deficit. Other people might be interested in gaining muscle or gaining some sort of performance marker like being able to run faster or bringing down their time in a half marathon. So depending on what your idealized or your dream state is, that is going to help you determine where you fall in terms of rating yourself within that life domain. So for me, my nutrition has been off, so I would say probably a 2 or 3 out of 10. My sleep has been about middle of the road, so maybe a 6 or 7. My exercise has been not as intense as I have in the past, and that is my goal, is to get a high intensity, at least 20 minutes of a high intensity workout 6 days a week, as well as some supplementary movement. So I haven't been hitting that mark, and this year I noticed that I delay sometimes in addressing some of my medical needs. So overall, in terms of my physical health and fitness, I would say that I'm about a 4 or a 5 compared to my idealized dream state within that domain. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in 5 of these inner circles, and that's going to give me a rating of where I am in that domain. Then you're going to move on to the next domain. So for me, that's mental health and wellness. And I'm going to rate myself overall and how well I've been doing with maintaining a routine, with self-care, downtime, and having organized fun time. That is what I call actually scheduling out trips or family adventures or things that I can do that are on my schedule that I have to look forward to so that I can have some anticipatory joy. That's the joy that you get from thinking about a future event, as well as consumatory joy. That is the feel-good juices that happen in your brain when you're actually doing fun things. So having organized fun is something that is important to me because I get to double dip on that joy, thinking about it coming and then actually doing it. So I'm going to rate myself on mental health and wellness, and then I'm going to rate myself in all of the other areas as well. Once you've rated yourself on all of your life domains, you can take this extra step and give yourself an overall rating. I like to give myself just like overall feelings on how I felt I did over the last 12 months. And that's going to be my overall life assessment. Now that you have a good idea of where you stand in terms of your life domains, you can identify some deltas or some differences between where you are now and your idealized state or the dream state or how you want to show up in each of these life domains. That gap or that difference is a good place for you to start with your goals for the coming year. I like to have one goal in each of my life domains. For example, last year I did 18 YouTube videos, and I'd like to do 52 YouTube videos in the coming year. I gained 18 pounds in the last year, and I want to hit my goal weight in the coming year. Since my family has moved from Boston to the DC area, we really have not established a solid routine, and that's really important for my mental health and well-being. So I really like to establish a solid routine in the coming year. My family has been dealing with a rough transition period. Being a military family, we move very often, but this move seems to have an extended transition period for us. We haven't really settled into a new cleaning routine, just like we haven't settled into a lot of our just general routines. I really haven't been putting in a lot of formal time into my personal growth, other than my Duolingo streak, which is at like 223 days. I want to complete some formal classes, again, in videography, as well as some language courses. In terms of finances, I really like to have a clear trajectory, and I need to update our 1 and 5 year financial plan. At work, things have been a little uncertain, and I've put in for a transfer, so there is some uncertainty as to how I'm going to be moving forward in my 9 to 5, and I'd like to determine at the very least my next steps in figuring out my next move in terms of my 9 to 5 job. Finally, there has been mixed efforts in terms of maintaining and strengthening my interpersonal relationships. So finding a consistent routine where I can spend enough time with my husband and my son, as well as finding some time for friends and my pets, is going to be an important part of 2024. The next step in this process is very important, so don't skip this one. You want to look at your goals and rank order them. It might be tempting to say that you want to invest all of your energy in all of your goals, but the truth is you have limited time and energy. And if you're anything like me, you have 2 jobs, a kid, a spouse, and a myriad of responsibilities that you have to do while you're also trying to work on your goals. So I think that it's very helpful to be able to rank order them so that when you're faced with limited time or limited energy, you know where to focus that time and energy toward the things that mean the most to you. This is why it's really helpful for you to have a good sense of what you value in life and what phase of life you're in. For example, in this phase of my life, I am a mid-career research scientist with a thriving private practice, as well as a dozen or so publications in a variety of medical journals. This is not my prime 9 to 5 hustle time, because there are other things that I value more these days, such as financial independence and being able to grow and expand some of my side hustle work on this channel. I'm also about a decade outside of my PhD program, so I'm not focusing a lot of my time or attention on personal growth or formal education because that phase of my life is primarily behind me. So, like with many things in life, there are no right or wrong answers. It just takes a little bit of introspection for you to think through what things are important to me right now. This is when having a digital planning space has been particularly helpful for me, but you could also do this with some sticky notes and just move them around until you've identified your order of importance. So for me, YouTube and growing this channel is what's most important to me in 2024. My physical health and fitness comes after that. Then I have my mental health and wellness. That's actually probably just below physical health and fitness. My 9 to 5 job has come down to the bottom there. Personal growth is less important than relationships. My physical environment is less important than those interpersonal relationships. And my finances fall kind of middle of the road. Now, it's a little bit cutthroat and a little bit anxiety provoking when you actually are putting it in rank order or order of importance, because you're thinking to yourself, like, is my mental health and wellness really like not as important as my physical health and fitness? Aren't they like even on par with each other? Well, yeah, they're both important and they're both high up in my order of importance, but I really do want to delineate what is more important than what, so that when I'm making these decisions on how I'm going to invest my time, my energy, my money, I really am looking at this as a tiebreaker or as a guide for how I'm going to invest that time and energy. Next is taking some time to determine what systems need to be in place for you to be able to achieve your goals within each of these life domains. It feels good for you to be able to think about your idealized or your dream state in each of these domains. And your mind might trick you and give you a little dopamine hit just because you're sitting down and thinking through what are your goals and what specific targets you want to reach in the coming year. But Don't let your mind fool you into thinking that you've actually done anything, because all you've done over the past hour is think through what it is that you want to do, and thinking is very different than acting or forward momentum toward those goals. So it's important for you to think through what are the systems, what are the individual behaviors or individual habits that you need to develop in order to get you to those goals. So this is where systems come into play. I want to record 52 YouTube videos over the course of the year. That means that I need to schedule each component. I need to schedule out when I'm going to be writing, when I'm going to be editing, the specific topics that I'm going to be covering, and I have to set up the systems or schedule in the specific behaviors or actions that need to be taken to ensure that I get out those 52 videos. For my health and fitness goals, I need to set a specific eating routine, have a specific workout plan, and I need to have some specific nighttime routines that support the level of sleep that I'm trying to get. I do go through and identify systems needed in each of my life domains, but when I start moving forward and getting into the nitty-gritty of my plans for the next year, I understand that not all of these systems are going to fit into a 24-hour day or a 7-day week. So I understand that these are the systems that I need for the idealized state, but I may not be able to have the time or energy to devote to developing all of these systems. So now's the time to start having those difficult discussions with yourself and try to narrow down your goals to a manageable amount. That amount is going to vary from person to person, and some of these systems might be harder to develop than others. So it's time to decide how many of these systems are you going to develop and how many goals are you going to go after in 2024. This brings us to our yearly split. Now, you may have heard that there's some magic to 12 or 15 week goals. Quarterly goals allow enough runway for you to make actual progress on a bigger goal, and it also gives you enough freedom to be able to fail or experiment. But a 4-quarter year doesn't necessarily work best for all people. And I like to plan my year in quintiles. You can split your year into 2 6-month sections. You can split up your year into a third. It really has to do with the cadence of your year. The reason I break my year up into 5 sections is because I have school-age children, and I also have family traditions that create natural milestones for me to assess my progress. So this is how I split up my year. Q1, which is quintile 1, runs from January through March. I usually have a family vacation for the beginning of January, and that's when I do most of my yearly planning. I'm going to give myself 3 solid months to work on short-term projects. The second part of my year runs from April through June. That takes us through the spring and into the end of the school year. The third part of my year is summer break, and that's going to run from mid-June through September. So it's going to be mostly July through August. And this is because my son is out of school, so there's going to be a different rhythm to my life, different routines that are going to happen because I have a school-age child that's not in school. The fourth part of my year runs from September through November, and that is going to take me into the holiday season. The final portion of my year is November and December. Those are the 2 holiday months, and those are also going to be punctuated by a lot of travel. So when I split up my year this way, I understand that I'm going to have different goals and expectations for myself in that 5th part of the year because I know that that is going to be dominated by some of that travel. While I'm here splitting up my year, I'm going to write the big milestones or big events that are happening within each of those quintiles. So starting in January through March, I have a trip to Florida to visit my sister. That is going to be happening in February. In April, I have a wedding to attend, and that is going to be in Pennsylvania, and that is in April. I don't have anything specifically planned for May or June. July and August, we have a big family reunion in Canada in July. So that is going to be a big trip. And I don't have anything planned for August, but I do know that my son is going to be attending wrestling camp this summer. From September to November, my son starts high school in September, so that is going to be a big deal. That also means that I don't know what the rhythm of my afternoons are going to be during that period of time. So high school is going to be starting. I also know that it's going to be somewhat emotional going into the holidays. since we did have a death in the family this holiday season. So I think that that is going to be punctuated during that time next year. So we have holiday travel. Thanksgiving is at my dad's house every year. So that is in Pennsylvania, and that is in November. And I don't have anything planned for the holiday season, so for Hanukkah / Christmas in our family. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do, but I do know there's gonna be some holiday travel, so I'm just gonna write holiday travel. I'm just getting like a general feel for what those periods of time are gonna look like in my life. So if there's anything else, let's see. I think we do want to do a cruise in September. That might be happening, so I have that as a question mark. I have an understanding of the major events during that time and a general understanding of how much bandwidth I'll have to give to each of these goals. Having this set up is going to help with the next phase of planning, because now you have big chunks and you can break up those big chunks into smaller chunks. So I know that my first section from January through March, that is 3 months. So I can split up my goals into monthly milestones. Then I can move on to what weekly behaviors and what daily habits are required for me to meet those monthly milestones. So I'm gonna turn that Q1 section into its own page. So now I'm gonna go in and set some milestones for January, February, and March. So my primary concern is my YouTube channel. Things that are within my control for growth within this platform is how many videos I post. So for January, it is posting 4 videos. For February, it is 4 videos. And for March, it is 5 videos. So for my eating routine, that involves calorie tracking. And I want an 80% solution starting off strong in January. So January has 31 days and 80% of that is 24 days. So my goal is going to be to log in to complete a food log 24 out of the 31 days. For working out, I am going to have a 20 workout milestone for each of these months. That allows me an 80% solution of seeking to move my body in a formal way for 6 out of the 7 days of the month. So I'm going to consider myself a success if I do 20 workouts every month between January and March. Working on my bedtime routine, I'm actually going to use a metric of hours of sleep and try to hit 7 hours, 7.5 hours, and 8 hours over the course of those 3 months. So here you want to go through and identify what success looks like, or what mini milestones do you want to hit as you're moving through this period of your year. Now that you know the individual milestones that you want to hit, it's going to be easier for you to plan out your ideal week. I do this at the start of each of those yearly chunks. The first chunk of my year happens to be the first quarter of the year, and for those 12 to 15 weeks, I develop an ideal week, and I actually put into my calendar the individual commitments, habits, or behaviors that I need to do to be able to meet those monthly milestones. So I actually schedule in my workouts Monday through Thursday from 6 to 7. I know that I'm not likely to work out on Fridays because that is usually when I drive out to the clinic where I see therapy patients. So I don't work out on Fridays, but this does give me the 6 workouts that I'm trying to hit so that I can reach my 20 workouts a month milestone for the month of January. Then I actually schedule in when will I be doing the writing, the filming, the editing for this YouTube channel? When am I going to be going to my 9 to 5 and investing in that, since that supports some of these side projects that I have going on? When am I going to be spending quality time with my husband and my son, which I've identified as something that's important to me in the coming year? I go in and actually determine what blocks of time are going to be invested so that I'm actually able to meet those milestones that I've identified for myself. When you have this big picture of what you want to do on a weekly basis, you're also going to identify some patterns that are going to become your daily habits. The goal here is to have some consistency within this period of time, and your behaviors, along with your habits, will give you the momentum that you need to be able to hit your goals within this section of the year and to be able to meet your yearly goals over time. As I said before, one of the hardest parts of this process is understanding what is important to you, which is why it really helps to have a good understanding of your personal values. This video right here gives you a step-by-step process to help you identify your personal values. And if you want to review my step-by-step process on how I've reviewed for my upcoming year, you can check out all of the slides that I presented on my website. The link is down below.